We have 3 testimonies that we will have folks offer to us today. The first is Kelly Edwards. I invite her forward at this time.
Good morning. My name's Kelly Edwards. My family and I attend the 9 o'clock service. My husband and David and I have a 1-year-old Ella. And then we have 2 5-year-old twins that are in Miss Sarah's kindergarten class, and they've been going to HCA since they were in Miss June's class for the 2-year-old class. Last year, I started a mom's Bible study with moms from the school here and moms from the church, and then it ended up being some of the moms in the neighborhood. A while back, I heard Pastor Joe mention something about praying to God and telling God that you want to be used for his will, and to ask him to show how you can be used. So part of my prayers started consisting of telling God that I wanted him to use me and to show me how I could be used to carry out his will. After a few months of praying, God put it in my heart to start a Bible study consisting of young moms from the church and moms from here at the school. I was a little nervous that I wouldn't have anybody to join me, but I figured if I didn't, oh well. I just started asking moms that I knew here at the church and moms over at the school if they wanted to join me for a mom's Bible study. To my surprise, about everyone I asked said yes. A couple of these people asked if they could bring their neighbor, their friend, or as Leslie did, the girl at the gym. We ended up with 14 young moms in the group. Now that I had a rather large group and had never led a group before, I knew I had to pray to ask what to do with the group. I called my friend Jackie that has done multiple book studies and Bible studies. I asked her for a light book that would just gain the interest of the moms in the group. She recommended the book The Best Yes. So in the fall, we started the book. The book was very relevant to all of our lives. After more of a light book, our group then switched over to a more in-depth Bible study called The Armor of God. We spent 16 weeks completing it. The book and the Bible study were completed, and there was still about a month left of school. Many of the moms didn't want to stop and wanted to keep going, so we just decided to dig into the Bible and read the book of Proverbs together. And we went all the way through the end of the school year. Throughout the school year, our group became very close with one another as we shared life together and grew in our faith together. We applied what we were learning to our marriages and to raising kids. We helped each other with conflicts in our lives, and we prayed for each other. We started seeing each other outside of Bible study for play dates or mom's nights out. 7 of us even signed up to take the marriage course together over the summer. One of my favorite things about the group was that we were all in different stages of our faith. Some attend church and some do not. Some were familiar with the Bible and some were not. Some started out with no Bible at all, and then some had worn out Bibles. The best thing was that no matter what stage we were in with our faith, we all grew in our faith. I don't really see myself as the leader of the group. Rather, I am the organizer. The group itself and God lead the group. It was quite simple to put this group together and simple to carry out. I encourage you to pray to see if starting a Bible study or a small group is part of God's will for you. If it's not, then maybe just joining and participating in a small group or Bible study is. You will find such great friendships all while growing in your faith. If starting a small group or Bible study is in you, just start asking around. You might be surprised. The group can consist of others in the same stage of life, such as retirement, empty nesters, or losing a spouse. Maybe it's others with the same interests, such as running, biking, hiking, camping, or collecting something. Maybe it's a group with mixed ages and mixed interests. You can ask people in the church, and don't forget to ask those that are out in the neighborhood. Last thing, I need to thank Joan Daphne. Joan watched our little kids that weren't in school yet. She played with Ella and all the other little kids in the church nursery while the moms met. If it wasn't for her, many of us moms wouldn't have been able to attend the Bible study and have the chance to grow in our faith. Thank you, Joan. Our group is growing by a few more this year. We have about 5 more that have signed up. So we may be looking for somebody else to help in the nursery. Thanks for letting me share about our group with you.
I know Tom is listed second, but I'm going to ask you to finish us off today, Tom. So you'll be the closer, as it were.
Hi, I'm Leslie Wehmeyer. I've been a member of Markham Presbyterian for about 12 years. My husband, Chad, and I got married here. Our children were baptized here, and both kids have attended Heathrow Christian Academy. When Kelly asked if I was interested in joining a Bible study group, my youngest had just started preschool, and I said, yes, sign me up. For me, it was an hour and a half where I got to take my mom hat off and focus on my relationship with God. I've attended church my whole life, but when I joined Bible study, I started to understand the messages on a deeper level, and more importantly, through the books we read and discussions we had, I learned practical ways to apply God's truth to my everyday life. I loved one of the examples Priscilla Shire used in our spring study, Armor of God. She said, imagine wheeling in your empty suitcase to church every Sunday. And every Sunday, your pastor fills that suitcase with all kinds of good things and messages. After service, do you leave your now full suitcase in the corner of your bedroom, or do you unpack it? Are you pulling out each item and using it during your Monday through Saturday? I do believe I have done a better job unpacking my suitcase since joining this Bible study group. Aside from getting a deeper understanding of messages and learning practical ways to apply them, I've also made 14 new friends, and I feel as though I have a team of prayer warriors to call on when needed. We have prayed for babies, traveling husbands, sick family members, and life's woes. We have become each other's cheerleaders and sounding boards. Wednesdays have become food for my soul. It's a morning I always look forward to, and I always leave with a sense of peace. With our Bible study group on break over the summer, several of us decided to get our husbands involved and join the Alpha Marriage course. Since many of us have young children and couldn't remember the last time we had a date with our husbands, the idea of having a date once a week for 8 weeks was very appealing. So much of our time is devoted to work or with kids and their activities, and this course allowed us to invest in us and our relationship. Anderson Hall is transformed into a romantic dining area with tables set for 2, peaceful music, and dimmed lights. Childcare is provided while you and your spouse enjoy quality time over a delicious meal and dessert. After dinner, you watch a video which offers practical tools and ways that you can strengthen your relationship, and you're also given time to discuss the topics covered privately as a couple. If Bible study feeds my soul, Alpha Marriage nourished my heart. I am grateful to Kelly for starting our Bible study group and to all the volunteers that made the Alpha Marriage course this summer possible. If you're on the fence about signing up for one of these courses, I'll leave you with what Lisa Turker said in our first Bible study session with the best yes. A clock must be set to the right time, or it's useless. A tree must have a healthy root system, or it will die. A house must have a reliable foundation, or it will crumble. And a heart must have godly wisdom, or it will follow the pattern of foolishness. She goes on to ask, what is wisdom? How do you get it? Where does it come from? And how can you set your heart to it? If you're seeking the answers to these questions, I encourage you to join us in Anderson Hall after the service to explore some of the courses offered at our church. Thank you.
Good morning, Markham Woods. The reason I'm up here is they have decided that because I belong to 3 small groups here, which is just my shot in the arm. Every week, Monday morning, the men's group gets together and we just talk about Christ, our hurts, what's gone on in the week, our families. And speaking of families, I forgot about my wife, Robin. Robin is my wife. We've been going here for 7 years, and she puts up with me, and I'm very thankful to that. So Monday morning, we have a men's Bible study. It's a good place to go and just talk to other guys and just find out what's going on in the world. And then on Tuesday morning, we have another men's group. We get together with them, and same thing. We just talk. It's my shot in the arm for the week. And then on Thursday nights, we have a prayer group here. We meet here either at 4 o'clock or 7 o'clock on Thursday. And it's just a time to pray for people in the church, pray for our families, pray for anybody. And it varies every week, and I just love it. And I hope we're signing up today over there, and we hope that everybody comes over and just pick something that you enjoy, something that you might want to do. Prayer group, we can always use more people. Thank you very much.
Well, I do understand that we have schedules and everybody wants to connect, right? It's fitting that on a day when we've highlighted so many opportunities to serve, that this worship service is also this delightful arrangement of ways that we express our commitment to the work of God. And for several weeks, we've been exploring this idea of a common sense faith by listening to the words of Jesus from the Sermon on the Mount. So with the crowds gathered on the Mount to hear him speak, we are astounded at the depth and the breadth of his sermon, which spans 3 chapters, Matthew 5 through 7. And it covers all sorts of territory, just like we are today, instructing folks on what it means to follow God faithfully. Jesus begins with the Beatitudes, this series of pronouncements about who is truly blessed in opposition to what we might think. Jesus tells the crowd who they are, salt and light. He tells them who he is, one who has come not to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. He utters this series of, "You have heard it said, but I tell you" statements that challenge the prevailing wisdom of the day and turn existing laws on their heads. Jesus proffers these warnings about what I like to call PDPs, public displays of piety, and of hypocritical actions that belie insincere faith. He offers gentle reminders not to worry, that God's got this. And then in chapter 7, we begin to hear the messages that we have covered lately and what we have called the common sense faith statements of Jesus. Do not judge others because you ain't so hot yourself. At the same time, be judicious in who you share the gospel message with. If they are selfish, self-righteous, and antagonistic, maybe they're not worth the investment just yet. Don't be afraid to ask God for things. You might be surprised by what God is willing to say yes to. And some more that we will explore in the coming weeks. But briefly, I'll look at a couple of things that he said in today's scripture reading. The first from chapter 6 is this precursor to Jesus' assurance not to worry, that God will provide what we need. But it's a warning that when it comes to worship, we cannot multitask. And he did not mean daily or weekly ordered worship, but how we recognize and honor God when we are not situated in the synagogue or the sanctuary. He said it plainly, you cannot serve 2 masters. You cannot serve God and wealth. The J.B. Phillips translation calls wealth the power of money. And that is indeed what it is. In cultures far and wide, money means power, often to an exponential degree. Who among us has not succumbed to its siren song? We have built our way of life around devotion to financial security, if not extravagance. Surely it's the greatest temptation since Adam and Eve discovered the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And it serves a similar end. Independence from God. It's interesting then that as stewardship season approaches and we look a little more closely at how we can contribute to God's work collectively, we crunch the numbers at home, we see what our needs are, we decide how much we can part with, and together our average giving will end up in the neighborhood of 3%, same as it ever has in this and thousands of other churches. It's a notion that we have collectively labeled, or rather, I should say that what would it look like then if instead of that 3%, we went all in, if I may use a poker term. It might be the church of Acts chapter 2, where all who believed were together and had all things in common. They would sell their possessions and goods and distribute the proceeds to all as any had need. And day by day, the Lord added to their number those who were being saved. Now, rest assured, that would look nothing like the church as we know it and as we have always known it. And in a way, that's what frightens us. It's so radical an idea that we rationalize it, we contextualize it, we isolate it, we shove it in the corner of the room not to be discussed in polite company. We call it common nonsense, and we pretend Jesus never preached it to everyone and his brother and his sister on the hill that day. So it's no surprise then that a little later in this sermon, Jesus offers this challenge to enter by the narrow gate. Wide is the gate and easy is the road that most pick as they seek to serve the power of money. Yet that path's destination is disaster and destruction. Instead, look for that narrow path off the beaten one, the one that is hidden, rocky, and only allows one at a time to pass. That is the one that, contrary to what everyone tells you, will lead to life. We have a choice, Jesus preached, and in so doing, he echoed a refrain from across the generations. For it was a choice that Moses also preached in this first scripture reading today from Deuteronomy. Moses is telling God's people, the nation of Israel, a name that means strives or struggles with God, that loving the Lord your God, walking in his ways, and observing his commandments, decrees, and ordinances is a way to choose life. Moses reminded them of the covenant they made with God, a covenant that, should they honor it, would lead to blessings and abundance. But if they did not, if they forgot who God was and turned their attention to other gods, they would not live long in the land that God was giving them. It was a time of decision, as Moses was not allowed to lead them into the promised land. But before he would leave them in body, he would leave them with this choice, and their response would make all the difference for the lives of themselves and their descendants. And isn't it the same for all of us, no matter where or when we find ourselves? Moses, our spiritual forebear, is with us too, calling us to honor the covenant of membership and of ordination that we make with God in baptism. We do this not just by showing up for worship, though that's a key start. We do it by showing up for the holy work that God gives us to do to strengthen family, church, community, nation, and world. And it starts right here on Connection Day. The leader who followed Moses and led Israel into Canaan was Joshua. He offered a similar challenge to Israel and to us before his death. Choose this day who you will serve. It was a covenant renewal, a time to remind the people of the promises they had made. And that is what we have done today in so many orderly and messy ways. We have reminded ourselves that in our baptism, we are not just signifying membership, we are embodying our commitment to the great commandment, to love the Lord with heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to its corollary, to love our neighbor as ourselves. Today, we choose the challenging path. We choose God.